Hello everybody, Nick here from The Two-Man Show, and I'm so happy to be talking to you guys today about another hot take. Today we're going to be talking about kayfabe. Is kayfabe dead in wrestling? Now, I know a lot of not hardcore wrestling fans may not know what kayfabe is, and that may seal the deal right there. The most modern-day wrestling fan may not have a clue what kayfabe is due to the indie scene, due to the rise of social media, and due to the rise of just it not being really important in wrestling anymore. Go back to the 80s. Picture some of the biggest feuds happening in that time. Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. You will never see them after a match, after a taping of WWF Superstars. You will never, ever see them going to a bar together, going to a restaurant together, driving in the same car together because they hated each other, because they were villains, because neither of them liked each other, because they were fighting. But now, when you've got matches against like Becky Lynch and Charlotte, after their match, they're going back on social media, all best friends, buddy, everything's all hunky-dory. Kayfabe in wrestling is essentially dead. Kayfabe is the believability. Kayfabe isn't lying to someone, it's acting, it's portraying a character. A lot of people are able to keep that kayfabe alive. Like, Paul Heyman will sell you something so well. He'll sell you a Brock Lesnar match so well. He'll make you feel like that is an important match. Jim Cornette had a great ability to keep kayfabe running. Kayfabe back in the 80s and a little bit of the 90s was really just a common thing in wrestling. But now, with the rise of social media, with the rise of people generally just not giving a f*** anymore, it just seems to be dead. It's a lost art to make things seem believable. It's kind of like the act of selling a move. You're not going to believe that a KO punch from the Big Show really hurts unless you got a guy that's really selling that move. Well, you're not going to believe that Becky versus Charlotte is going to be a match that we want to see unless they have a reason to fight. In kayfabe, it gives a lot of emotion off. It gives that, like, the realness. It gives the story, the connectability, the ability to say, I'm going to side with one person, I'm going to side with the face, or I'm going to side with the heel. A lot of times we don't know who the the heel or the face is in matches. We don't know anymore because that blurred kayfabe line is gone. It's sad to know that everything that made wrestling so believable and so true is gone now because of social media. Social media essentially killed wrestling in the sense of now wrestling was never really self-aware. It was, but it wasn't on television. It knew that, yeah, this is just acting and it's not real wrestling, but we're going to make it this way. But now that the cat's out of the bag, we know that wrestling isn't a real thing. Why would they keep telling us that it is when they can give us stuff that, millennials are going to like? The rise of social media destroyed wrestling. Independent wrestling, I've seen it either do two things. I've seen independent wrestling keep kayfabe and destroy kayfabe. I've seen, two guys are locked in a feud and they'll be, having a mini feud on Twitter, which at least it takes that social media aspect of like, okay, social media is a part of modern day culture now. Having, like, if you don't have a Twitter, people look at you weird. If you don't have a Twitter, people are going to look at you weird. But when guys like the Bullet Club and the Revival are jawing back and forth on Twitter, it makes it seem like, wow, these two guys really don't like each other. The whole hashtag the Revival and hashtag forever the Revival, like that's the thing that just, when it started to come about, people were like, oh, this is all fake. But reading through it, if I had no idea what wrestling was and I had no idea who the Bullet Club or who the Revival was, I would think that, man, these guys really hate each other and they're gonna beat the piss out of each other. Because if you go back, God, however many years ago, with that real heel heat from kayfabe, you really thought that Ric Flair was going to get the shit beat out of him. That kayfabe sold tickets. Because while Ric Flair was the bleach blonde, good body looking dude going up against the All-American guy, people thought, wow, I cannot wait to see this little blonde guy get his shit rocked because these two guys hate each other and obviously this guy's going to win. And then you go, and then they buy the tickets, and then they go, and then Flair wins, and that's just more heat building up Flair. It's hard to build over a heel now because wrestling fans just want big. They don't want story. They want big. They want ambulance matches every night. They want hardcore matches every night. They don't want storytelling. As much as they say, oh, we want a good story for this superstar, they don't, because they get bored of it. We had story with Roman Reigns for a while, and now look at him. No one likes Roman Reigns anymore. You had stories and opportunities with so many people, but fans get bored of it. Because your stories can't be too long, but if your stories are too short, they're mad at you. I think it's a wrestling fan's job to blur the lines between what kayfabe is and between what fake is, and enjoy wrestling for the realness of the heat behind it. If we don't give wrestling that chance to prove to us that it can be a real thing, that it can be a believable thing, then why are we still watching? Wrestling fans want that big thing, but we gotta learn that that big thing will come. That big thing is for a pay-per-view, is for a SummerSlam, a WrestleMania. It's not for an episode of Raw or SmackDown. That big thing, that story is going to build on Raw and SmackDown, and even throughout it with, now that we have that social media rise, we can start using social media to kind of, start filtering a lot of these feuds. You've got, for a while, I think you had Ty Dillinger and The Miz having their little thing back and forth in WWE. They're not on the same brand anymore, so the odds of that happening are pretty slim now, but it just shows that you can keep that kayfabe alive while mixing the two, the two entities of this is now modern day, but we can still use it. But it's up to WWE fans to make it that way. WWE fans need to understand that while the big will happen, the story needs to happen first. That is my hot take for today, ladies and gentlemen. Be sure to find me on Twitter at ArmWeek21 and follow my podcasts at The Two Man Show. And I will talk to you guys with some more hot takes so soon.